We're going to get started now. My name is Natalie Trudell, and I am the Marketing Manager here at Corporate Renaissance Group. I just want to welcome everyone to today's webinar on how to stay connected when working remotely using Microsoft Teams. I hope everyone on the call is staying healthy and safe during this time, and I definitely thank you for joining and for your time today as we review a topic that is affecting many of us right now and likely will be affecting us for the foreseeable future, and that is how to effectively work and collaborate from home. So a few housekeeping items before we get started. This presentation is being recorded, so don't worry about that. It will be available after the session, and we will send that out to everyone who has registered along with some additional resources. So just, sit back and relax and enjoy the presentation, and we will send everything along afterwards. We also encourage questions, so please send them through the Q&A panel in your Teams panel, and we will get to them either during the presentation or at the end. And finally, I want to point out that you're actually in Teams right now. We're hosting this live event using Teams live events. So if you have never used Teams before, this is a great way for you to get some kind of firsthand experience while we show you around. All right, so a little bit about Corporate Renaissance Group for those who are not familiar. We've been around for 30 years now, so we really help companies basically use the latest in technology to transform their business from end to end. So we have a great team here of highly tenured experts and consultants across every area of business, like enterprise resource planning, finance, budgeting, business intelligence, cloud migration, collaboration, and HR. So we do strive to be the go-to partner for technology enablement and digital transformation. And for many businesses in Ottawa and Canada and globally, we are just that. And I recognized a lot of familiar names registering for the webinar today, so thank you. As some of you might know, Microsoft has really created a spectacular technology option for business with cloud-based integrated systems like Office 365, Dynamics 365, Azure, Power BI, and of course, Teams. So we have loads of resources on our website, CRGroup.com, and welcome you to check that out and explore, because what Microsoft has done is they've made it easy to really pave a path to integrated business systems that are accessible from anywhere. And that's really where we come in. We do help companies assess what systems they have, what they need, how to get there, and how to really reach their goals with that. So we are in a unique position, and we were very excited to host this webinar because, of course, it's particularly important. We've all been experiencing this kind of unprecedented time of remote working. Businesses have taken on a new form of working together, and things have moved from kind of optional modern working and remote communication to mandatory. And this can and it likely is causing some bumps in the road for many of us. So with this webinar, we're really hoping to give you everything you need to either get started with Teams today and just enable it, or use it more effectively so that this transition period will be a little smoother for everyone. We have been using Teams as a company for quite some time, and I can tell you it has been incredibly well used and well received. I use it to have meetings with my own team, with clients, with partners. It has really made me feel connected with the rest of the world and facilitates work in a phenomenal way, especially over the last 2 weeks. We really haven't seen any interruption in delivery as a company. And a big part of that is the setup that we have across our business systems. We are very lucky. Everything's accessible to us. And of course, being able to work together in teams. So we're really excited to show you around that today. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce you to your host. Elizabeth Brown is an expert in all things around sharing and collaboration. She leads all the projects here for Teams and SharePoint, and she's going to give you a great run through of Teams. So over to you, Elizabeth.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. So the agenda for today is we're going to talk about what is Teams, getting started with Teams, some licensing options, calling, chat, group discussion, Teams meetings, some features around Teams meetings, some administration considerations for Teams, links to a number of resources, and then we'll finish up with some questions. Hopefully this webinar should be great for new. So if you're completely new to Teams, you should be able to get started with Teams after this. And if you're experienced, there should still be some information here that will help you fully utilize Teams in sense of working from home and working remotely. So Teams, as the sort of glue that holds us all together. And many businesses have been responsible because of this whole COVID-19, moving to remote working. The challenge to this is many were not prepared for the sudden fast-paced transition. Thankfully, technology has kept pace and we have many tools at our disposal that can be implemented efficiently. At CRGroup, we too are working in remotely, and we want to share as knowledge leaders how you can make this transition as easy as possible. At this moment, it's not clear how long the situation could last or how often we could be dealing with this in the future. Knowing how to work as a team remotely is more crucial than ever before. We're even operating this webinars from our home offices today. For us, team is the glue that holds us together. We're able to use it to get a hold of each other instantly through chat and calls, to host business unit meetings and communicate with our clients around the globe. This is done in one place with one software. Enabling remote work is so important because it allows us to prepare for times like these, where many of us are suddenly working from home. It can open the door to higher productivity. Some employees thrive in the remote environment. This doesn't mean you must work remotely at all times. It just means that having the option available can be really useful for attracting talent. This allows accessibility of information. We can reduce on paper and our files are waiting for us. We can take our work with us anywhere we go, whether it's working on site or clients or internationally. You can keep everyone in one collected place. And finally, we can maintain team collaboration. So what is Microsoft Teams? It is the Microsoft collaboration tool. It's a replacement for Skype for Business. So if anyone's been using that, Microsoft announced actually quite some time ago that Teams had parity with Skype and that they were going to phase out Skype for Business. And so it's built on all the Office 365 technology. And there's Office 365 groups, so there's Teams is built on top of that. It's built on SharePoint team sites. It integrates with OneDrive. It integrates with all these different Office 365. So it's sort of your portal into all these different places of Office 365. It integrates with Planner and like Microsoft Forms, all these other Microsoft apps. It also integrates with other non-Microsoft apps. So if you are using cloud storage, you can integrate that here too. So you can have Box or Google Drives as well as the SharePoint team site for storing files. So what is Microsoft Teams? We've been using it extensively for months, and we can confidently say it's hands down one of the best designed chat tools available. We have been using chat tools ever since I started working here. So we've been using chat tools for 7 years, and we went through so many different variations. And I think people really, really like Teams. Out of all of the ones we use, I think everyone just really likes Teams way better than all the other ones we've tried. Audio quality is absolutely spectacular. Policy options make it easy to establish proper and secure usage. Our team hasn't missed a beat from this whole working from home, and that's 100% due to Teams. So what does Teams offer? You have chat, you have calls, meetings, live events, file sharing, integration with Office 365 apps, and also integration with non-Microsoft apps. So newest Teams feature. So last week alone, Microsoft Teams has saw an increase of usership by an extraordinary amount. So Microsoft has responded. There's new team features. These are the 4 that here I'm going to be announcing. I'm going to talk about them in a second, but they're sort of moving the roadmap around because they always have a roadmap of what new features are coming in SharePoint and Exchange and Planner, but they're going to sort of focus on these Teams features because they think they're going to be particularly useful for working remotely. So real-time noise suppression. So basically, if you're working from home and you've got some background pets or children or just a bag of chips was the example they used, it will actually take out that background noise. So it will be easier for you to communicate because people will just hear your voice and nothing in the background. The hand raising feature. So if it's a meeting where everyone's muted, it's sort of a way of getting your attention, especially if there's a lot of people in the meeting. You're like, hey, I have a question. So it's just the way of getting the attention of the meeting organizers so that you can ask your question. Offline mode for messaging, so you can go offline, have your messages and come back online. And separate chat windows, so you can have multiple chats going on at once and you have like different windows for it. So you can open up the chat in a separate pop-up window. So for that last one, I saw on their roadmap that that's going to be starting rolling out in early April and should be finished by the end of May. They have to roll it out across the whole world, so it takes a while. So you could be seeing that very shortly. It might take a little bit of time, but should be coming soon. A few other things is Microsoft has changed the sort of frequency of jobs and stuff like that. So they have SharePoint and there's a lot of back-end jobs, so they've changed the timing just to prioritize Teams to make sure that Teams will always work, so that it doesn't matter what's going on, how much, even though their usage has increased so much, people are still able to call, they're still going to have good quality, they're still going to be able to do video conferencing, and it's all going to work really, really well. So they've just been sort of making sure that Teams is always available. So they're prioritizing Teams right now. So how to get started with Teams and quickly. So if you've already have Office 365, you have Teams. If not, you can download Teams for free, and then you have the sort of desktop application. You can start sending your first messages and start building your teams. So we'll talk a little bit now about some licensing. So there is a free version of Teams. It does lack some features, of course, because it's free, but if you do need a chatting tool, it's a good place to get started. You're working from home and you guys don't, and your organization doesn't have it, it is a really good place to start. So Business Essentials is basically, that's like Exchange Online, and then there's the Word Online, Excel Online. So it's those versions of the online product plus SharePoint plus Teams. The Business Premium is all the essentials, but it also includes like the desktop versions of Word, Excel, PowerPoint. It has a few other options in terms of like Power Platform, like Power Automate, Power Apps. The limitation with the business ones is that you have to have less than 300 users. The enterprise, the E3, is you can have unlimited number of users. So the E3 and the Business Premium have similar features. There's a bit more in the E3, but the feature set is fairly similar. So as you can see, with the Teams version, the free version, you can chat and collaborate. So all of them, you have all the full functionality, meeting and calling. The E3 gives you the most options. You can even use it. You can use Teams to completely replace your phones. If you have like a voice over IP system, you can use Teams for that. There are additional licensing costs because you get sort of into like billing minutes, like calling minute plans. So there are additional costs. You wouldn't just have an E3 license if you wanted to completely remove your other desktop, like landline phones, but you could. On the other hand, like Microsoft, the Teams, the free version, because it's free, and so you're not using Exchange Online because you need a license for Exchange Online, you're not going to get the sort of integration with Outlook that you get with a licensed version of Teams where you are using Exchange Online. And so productivity apps and services, as I mentioned, that's like a lot of that's like Power Automate, Power Apps, Power BI. So you get, those are included in the Business Premium and the E3 licenses, but not in the other licenses. Security and compliance, and again, in like the more licensing you buy, you get more options. So there's like a security and compliance center. And so you wouldn't really have access to that with the free Teams license, but you'd still be able to do some security and compliance. You just don't have access to the full feature set, where with E3, you can create a policy saying, hey, if we want to monitor like what sort of words are being used and stuff. So you have a lot more options with E3. And again, same thing with administration and support. It's still available, but you might, depending on your licensing, you're going to get slightly different variations. Let's go take a look. So just taking a moment to load up. While it's loading up, so you can see it's actually asking me about whether I want to use the desktop app or the web app. In this case, I'm going to use the web app because I'm using the desktop app for the live team event. So it's a little bit cleaner to use the web app. And then it's just like asking me, hey, do you want to turn on desktop notifications? I'm just going to turn that off for now because I'm going to be demonstrating, and it's a little bit distracting having the pop-ups on the window. So this is Teams. As I mentioned, this is the web version of it. There's the desktop version, and there is also a mobile phone version. So you can have it for your iPhone or you can have it for your Android phone. They look fairly similar. Depending on your browser, you might find that there is some functionality differences, so that if you're using Firefox or using Chrome, you might find, hey, this feature doesn't work. I find that Chrome has the best support right now. That's the one I tend to use if I'm using the web version. Yeah, it's up to you. But the web version is very easy, and the interface is fairly similar to the desktop version. And you'll see over here that there's sort of a left panel of navigation. And so this activity tab is just showing you sort of what activities it is. So if you post a comment and someone replies to it, that's going to show up here. There's an add mention where they like mention you by name, and that's going to show up here. And then you can also do things like Power Automate can send approvals to you. So if you have approval workflows, that they could actually come in here and it will show up in your feed saying, hey, this needs to be approved. So that's another thing you can do. So with chat, this is just sort of like a chat window. It's like a lot of different chatting applications. You're chatting with one or two or a couple people, and it's just sort of chatting back and forth. There's a number of features. Teams are more formal groupings. So these are like your HR team might be a team, accounting might have its own team. Maybe you have a research project and so you want a bunch of different people from a bunch of different departments working together on this new research project. That could be a team, so it's a bit more formalized of who's on the team and how it's scheduled. The calendar is just going to show you a calendar view. So it's going to show you sort of what's going on. You can schedule meetings here. Again, if you're using the completely free version of it, this isn't going to link back to your Outlook. In this case, if you are using Office 365 and you have Exchange Online set up, and then you create a meeting here, there will be like a synchronicity between the two of them. Calls, so then you can actually make calls to different people, so you can see who you're calling. You've got contacts here, so that's another section. Files, so it's going to show you files that have been shared within like chats, within Teams, so you can see that there's got like sort of a recent panel, your Microsoft Teams, what files have been shared in that team, that then as it's shared in the team and you're a member of that team, you have access to it. And you can also see add cloud storage. So if you're using a different cloud storage system like Google Docs or something, you can add that link in here as well. So that's sort of the overview. If I go into the chat window here, I can actually see sort of like some different chats that have been going on. I had earlier was talking to Kristen and I'd sent him this, hey, this is the weather. And he's like, oh, it doesn't feel like March. So I can just respond. And so, you know, that's pretty straightforward. You just type and enter, and then it's sending this little check mark, which meant that it was sent, and then the little I, and then you see I got a reaction, and so it's got a little thumbs up, and that the little I means that it's been read. There's a number of other little things here. There's this one which will actually allow you to pop it up. So if you want to write a longer message and sort of have like 1-2 lines sort of thing like that, it's useful for that. And then there's some basic formatting events up here. The delete if you decide you don't want to send it. There's some delivery options. So if you needed to, you can say, oh, it's just standard. Important just will flag it as important. And the urgent means they're going to be notified every 2 minutes for 25 minutes. So this is something where it's very important you get hold of that person. You need their attention right away. That's where the urgent is. It is something you might want to consider putting policies around so people don't misuse it, so that they get annoyed with people overusing urgent. The attach basically allows you to attach files from OneDrive, or you can upload from your computer. If you upload it from your computer, that file that you've just attached is going to be stored in your OneDrive and then a sharing link sent to the person you're sharing the file with. So all the files in the chats, they get stored in the OneDrive of the person who shared them. There's also like a lot of little like fun things. So you can send sort of happy faces, you can send Giphies. So you got all sorts of different ones here. There's a schedule the meeting option, which apparently actually hit, which allows you to actually schedule a meeting with this particular person. If you wanted to, you could start adding other people. And so I can just say proposal discussion. And so you put a time and then whether it repeats. The channel is if you want to put it in a team, you can say, actually, I want to put this in a channel and a team. And that means that everyone in that team who has access to that channel would have access to it. So that's just pretty straightforward. There's a scheduling assistant which tells you whether people are available or not. Because both the people I'm trying to add to the meeting are guests, I can't see their calendars. However, if they were if we were all members of the same team and they weren't guests, so we were all in the same tenant, so we're all like staff members of the same company, we all belong to the same tenant, then I would be able to see their availability here, and so it makes it easy to schedule that. That's how you can schedule a meeting from chat. So I'm just going to discard those changes and close that up. Of course, you can do it from chat, and then obviously if you go into the calendar, that's another place where you can just click and schedule a meeting, and then you're just entering in the required attendees and stuff, right? They also have the live event here, so you can schedule a live event. We're going to do a separate video on live events, but you are right now in a live event. One other way to do it, which this is again is if you're using the sort of Office 365, is in your actual calendar of Outlook, there's this Teams meeting. And when you click on that, it will just bring this across. So it opens up the meeting invite, but it has this Teams meeting information down here where people can come and join the Teams meeting. The phone number is that is going to be license dependent. So if you're just using Teams out of the box and you don't have any additional licensing, the phone number won't appear. Because we have an add-on licensing for some telephone options, the phone number does appear, which allows people to call in to that number to join the Teams meeting. So let's close out of there. And there's also within Teams itself, you can schedule a meeting, which I will come back to in a second. I'm just going to go back to some other chat options as well. So Stream is the Office 365 video hosting service. So all the recordings, so like if you're in a Teams meeting or this live event where it is being recorded, that recording automatically goes to Stream afterwards. It's organization only, so it doesn't really allow sharing outside of the organization, but it's basically just sort of like a own internal YouTube for a company. Praise, it's basically just like, hey, you want to send thanks to people, like you were doing a great job, so hey, you were super creative. And then you can preview and just send, and it just sends this little, okay, it will send, oh, there it is. So then it sent that praise up there. So you can see it's kind of a way of saying, hey, thanks so much. You can do that in a chat, or you can also do it in a team. If you do it in a team, everyone in the team will see it, where the chat is just individual. Again, so then there's also places. So if you want to talk about meeting somewhere, this is going to link into Bing Maps, and so you can actually send a map image of where you are going. There's stock markets, there's news, which actually, this is the weather here. So there's weather, and then you can also add in like sort of YouTube videos, Wikipedia search. So there's quite a lot of things that can be sent back and forth. You can see here's some Giphies that were sent through, so you can kind of see them. And then, you know, you can just look at all the different sort of chats that you've been having with different people. So I can start a new chat here with Brittany. And then if I wanted to, you can actually go and add extra people to it. So you over here, you can add people. So I can add in, say, Dima. Oh, right, it's this way. So then you're saying it's starting a new conversation because you're adding in extra people. I can add in, say, Ben. So you just send off a message like that, and then that's sent to all of them. And I can see from the little check mark that it's been delivered. I just have to wait for them to come back and see if they've actually, when they respond to that. Okay, so yep, Ben's available. So what I can do is over here, there's a little audio call. So I can do an audio call. You can also do a video call. So I'm just going to click audio call for the moment. And actually, I'm going to mute myself just so that we don't get a lot of feedback. And so right now it's just calling them. And then there's a little chat window over here too. Hi, Brittany, can you hear me? I'm not hearing her. Okay. It seemed like she was talking, but I couldn't hear her. So yes, now I can hear you. So were you muted before? Okay. And so there's like a camera one. So let me try and turn this on and see if it works. It might not work because I'm also sharing my screen. So I'm not sure if it's showing up or not. But you can see you can mute yourself. You can turn your camera off. You can share your screen. So I can just say here, I'm going to share my screen. There's some other actions in here. You can say, oh, I want to record it. Whether you want to show device settings, enter full screen. There's a little chat window over here. You can see who's in the participants over here. So who's joining in. So Dima wasn't able to join in, but I can come over here and see the chat window. Because I haven't got my camera on, could one of you just show the blur background feature? Sorry, actually I'm not, it is showing up, so maybe I can. Okay, I'm not sure if it's showing up. Oh, it is showing up here, so hopefully it does show up. Okay. I don't know, I'm on Brittany. Let me, yes, it is. It is blurred. Yeah, you can kind of see it, but it's blurred out, so. All right, thanks guys for joining. Thanks so much for being part of this. Thanks. We're gonna hang up now, so thanks again. Bye.
And Elizabeth, I just want to add that, especially working from home, if you have people in the background or things in the background that will take away from the meeting or the chat, that blurred background is an excellent feature in Microsoft Teams.
And it's also one of those things that will be really good when they bring in the noise suppressant, because that will help cut off any background noise. The other day we were having this call and my fridge was running in the background. We were doing a test walkthrough and Natalie's like, what's that humming? And I'm like, oh yeah, it's my fridge. And she's like, why do you have the loudest fridge in the world? So the noise suppressant would have been really great yesterday because it does help cut back those background noises that you don't want on the video.
That's it. You know, when everyone's working from home, it's going to be this merging of work and home. So these small features make a big difference in helping to blur that a little bit.
So when you see at the end, it says, how was the call quality? So you can say, oh, it was excellent, or it was poor, it was terrible. I think it was pretty good, so I'll just say excellent. So you can always just respond to that. And then you can actually see that there was a little chat message coming up here. So it's just letting me know that someone had added something and then they decided they didn't want to keep it. So I can do like that. I'm like, what did I do? So actually you can come in and edit your messages and say, okay, let me just put that on a single line, or you can actually, and then you can save the changes, or you can just say done, or you can actually just come in and say, oh, actually, I just want to delete this message. So then there's like a share to Outlook, immersive reader, translate. It's saying who's read it. So 2 of the people in the chat have read it, but 1 hasn't. So there's quite a lot of features in this. And as Microsoft is constantly working on Teams and they're always adding new features, there is a roadmap that tells you, hey, this is what's coming, this is what's coming. There'll just be more and more here as time goes on. In a meeting itself, because that was a call, that interface is very similar to a meeting, but a meeting does allow you to have, it does allow more options. So we will demonstrate that in a moment, but you'll have things like a whiteboard, you have meeting notes where you can actually take notes during the meeting. But I'm going to go into Teams. So this is sort of the group section where this is more formal. So the chat, you can chat to like 1 person, but you can also chat together like with a couple of people. So you can chat with multiple people. If you are chatting with the same people, so like these ones here, I can actually edit it and give it a group name, and then I can access it via that group name. So if there are like 3 people you do chat with informally, you can kind of do that. Where a Teams is, like I said, it's a bit more formalized. So there's the team itself, and then there's different channels. The idea is that the channels is this is where you're going to sort of divide information. The way we use it at CRGroup is like we'll have a client, we'll have a They'll create a team for a client so that the client members can come in there. Because we're a consulting firm, obviously we're working with clients all the time, right? So we'll have a team where we share it with guest members and the teams can come in, and then we'll create channels for the different projects so that it's kind of easier to group saying, hey, okay, I'm working on this GP or Business Central project. Here's a channel I want to go into. So that's sort of where the subdivisions work. This is where things can get very, very tricky, because if you start adding lots and lots of teams, so if you add like multiple teams for a project, so we didn't do it. We were working with a client and they wanted to use teams, and so they were adding us into their tenant, and they made it very difficult because they had a team for sort of like, oh, here's the testing team, here's the development team, here's the sort of sales part of it. So they had all these different teams and all these different channels for the same project. So people would be like, wait, where that document came in, where was it, which team was it in, which channel was it in, or that message that I saw, where was that again? So you do kind of want to think about how to structure it. You don't want to have like just one bucket, but you don't want to have so many that people get confused. So that's something to think about. And it's possible, if you're completely new to Teams and you're just setting it up, that you might want to sort of restrict that a little bit about who can maybe create a team or who can create a channel. There's also a couple channel types, which I'll just talk about right now. So to add a channel, I just click here and I go add channel, right? And so basically I can just give it a name. So I can say, we had the virtual water cooler, we have general, so if I have it standard, right, then that's going to be accessible to everyone on the team. So once someone comes into the team, they can see this channel as well. That's the way pretty much most channels work. It's the way it worked for a long time. It was the only option, but this feature has come out 6 months ago now, so it's private. So it's only accessible to a subset of people within the team. And so if you're doing it like that, which let's just wait while it adds. And so it means that then if I add people in here, so if I gave it access to Natalie, then she's going to be able to see this team, but only me and Natalie would see this channel, and no one else is going to see it. And it's marked with this little lock next to it, so you can tell that it's a private channel and not everyone's going to see it by default. In terms of like the actual chat window here, you can see that it's got a lot of the same options. It's got the sort of format, so you can pop it out. It has a little bit extra because you can say, I want to make it an announcement instead of, and that just allows you to put a headline. You can put an image back here, so it makes it a little bit more visual. Or you can just do a new conversation. Everyone can reply, and then also you can post to multiple channels. So if you want to have a post that you want to share with a bunch of people, then that's something you can use. So this is sort of the general channel, which is always created. So it just tells you like, hey, here, look at the people who add it. The virtual water cooler. So we've set this up. This is a demo environment because I don't want to share our actual teams just in case I have something pop up that's client related that I don't really want to share. The client doesn't really want to be shared with everyone. So it's just a demo environment. So we set up this virtual water cooler channel here to show you a sort of a mimic of what we've actually done in a production one, where we've created a sort of virtual water cooler because everyone's working remotely, so people can share jokes, they can share information, and just sort of have sort of that back and forth lightness that you can lose if you're working remotely, but it still allows people to connect a bit. And so I can come in here and I can say, oh, I really like this, or you can see I shared a news article earlier. You can reply to it and go, so you can sort of reply, and because I'm replying to Natalie, she would actually get a notification that, hey, someone replied to her. So this is cool. It looks like you can give that a heart. Second cup is staying open, so we can still get coffee. That's good. So you can see it's pretty, and then you can see people reacted to my messages as well. So I got like a little notification here. So you can see the reaction and stuff, and then the replies come up as well. And then that's going to show up over here in the activity feed. So if you're coming in and you're like, what's going on, you can kind of come in and see, hey, coffee anyone, and sort of stuff like that. So the feed can be quite useful, especially if you've got a lot of feedback going off. You can kind of just look up there and say, oh, this is what's happened recently. This HR channel is bolded, and that means that something's changed in there. So if I go click in the general, sure exactly what has changed, but when it's bolded like that, it means that something has changed. It's pretty subtle, but if it's like specific to you or someone's replied to you or liked a comment of yours, then it does show up in your activity. So and it also add mentions show up in your activity. So within conversation, you can add mention. Mention Natalie, something like that, where that's going to actually show up in their activity feed, and it will give them, it gives you a greater notification. It gives you like a little pop-up as well. There is options within the channel so that like people can go and say, they want to change their channel notification. Sorry, that would be on the channel itself. So when you click on the little 3 dots, you get some options. So the channel notifications, you can actually say, oh, turn that off, or banner and feed, show in the feed. So there's a number of options with that. So you can also manage it yourself. If you do want to make sure people get notified, there's like messaging policies and stuff like that that you can set up that say, hey, this is what people can do, this is what people can't. The other thing too is, of course, there's a meet now here. So if I click on that, that's going to say start a meeting right now. So you can say, hey, meet now, or you can actually go into schedule a meeting, and that's going to sort of say, hey, here's how do I want to schedule the meeting. I'm going to actually close out of this and just do meet now. And then that would be anyone in the channel. If they come into this channel, they're going to see that, hey, there's a meeting going on, and they can just come in and join it. But as I mentioned earlier, there's meeting notes that you have in a meeting. So you can come in here and say, I want to take some notes. So you can kind of act as like the secretary of what's going on in the meeting, saying, hey, this is what's happening, or what's changed on. So, so yeah, just start here. There's also, sorry, it's under share. So if you had a PowerPoint that's associated with this, you could share that here and everyone could look at the same PowerPoint. Of course, screen share, I won't do that because I'm already sharing my screen. And then if I share my screen again, I think it would just get really confusing. There's the Microsoft Whiteboard, and then there's the InVision, which is an add-in. So you would need to license this or purchase this. But you can just get the Microsoft Whiteboard, and then once it comes up, just waiting again. Sometimes you do need a little bit of patience with these apps, but you can see you can select a pen and just say, and then you can select a different color. So pretty cool for a meeting. There should be some new features coming with that, hopefully, where you can save it a bit better. But it's pretty cool that you have this whiteboard and everyone can just kind of draw on this whiteboard during the meeting. Again, like there's a mute function, so you can mute yourself. You can turn your camera off. Sometimes we do that in meetings if the camera is affecting it, which I have found sometimes that having the camera on can affect things. It's pretty good a lot of the times. It just depends on who you're talking to. It might get a little bit laggy sometimes if it's there. There's a chat window over here. So, and then it's got the meeting notes board created. You can see the participants, you can see who's actually here. And you can see Natalie's drawing some happy faces for us. And so then the suggestions are all people who are members of this team, so it's just suggestions to add them. And it's so pretty useful. And again, and then you can see some erasing and overwriting, and so it's the whiteboard's pretty cool. I think the meeting notes are pretty cool. It's pretty easy to just do an ad hoc sort of, here we are meeting. Let me just hang up. So you can just call, I'm just going to dismiss that because I didn't actually hear any audio, but you can see it's pretty easy just to do a meet now or to schedule a meeting. So there's actually like 3 different ways, because you can schedule a meeting from chat, you can schedule it from Teams, and you can schedule it from the calendar itself. Now you saw in the calls that we were able, from the chat, sorry, that we're able to actually call people here. You can also go into this calling section and call different people as well. So you can add specific contacts, and then you can actually just, so you can like manage sort of contact list here, so that you can have like a speed dial. Otherwise you can just sort of, and then again, you can do like a multiple call. So
now, Elizabeth, I'm being asked right now about the chat and the calls and people outside of the organization. So if they haven't been added to a team, or if they're outside the organization, can you still chat and call with them?
It depends on your organizational settings. So if your organization is allowing external access, so if they have a Skype for user account, a Skype account, like you can call them through their Skype account as well. So the answer is like is if you're trying to call them, if they have the Teams or they have Skype, then you can communicate with them. You should be able to call them and they can answer using Teams or Skype externally. If they don't have any of that, then it's license dependent. And so the ability to call externally is a setting, so that's a policy setting saying, hey, allow people to call out to external users. So that's one of the things that we want to consider when we're discussing the administration in a little bit, is about how you want to, about making sure that what policies you have for remote working is like, do people just need to talk to within your organization, or are they needing to call outside of it? And if they do need to call outside of it, then you want to enable that access. And if they need to make a call to like a cell phone, then you need like additional licensing. You're going to need to look at like the messaging policy, and depending on how you're doing it, you might end up having to buy like, so it's a sort of, yes, it's possible, but it might not be possible for you right now. So like if you're using Teams and you go into your Teams and you're like, okay, I'm going to put in like ebrown@crgroup.com, and you try to like call me from yours, it might not work just because your organization hasn't enabled that. But, and then if you tried to call like a Gmail account, then that Gmail person doesn't have like Skype, or if they don't have a Skype account or they don't have a Teams account, then it doesn't really have a way of calling them because they need the application to respond back. I hope that clarified it.
Yeah, I think it does. And I think the answer is yes, it's absolutely possible. We have meetings all the time with external people who aren't in Teams. It's just a function of how your Teams is set up and the recipient's tools that you're trying to reach. So, you know, after this webinar, if you have any other, we're going to address a lot of these questions, but if you need help enabling those policies, I believe Elizabeth's going to show you some things, but you can always contact CRGroup and we're happy to assist with that.
So yeah, so like I said, you can enter in multiple names. You can enter the audio call or video call again. I already spoke to them, so you guys saw what the call was like, so I won't call them again. And the files, so as I mentioned, like so if you're chatting with someone, the file's stored in OneDrive. So those OneDrive files are going to show up here, and you've got this like folder, Microsoft Teams data, and that's where the shared files will appear, sort of in this folder that's created automatically for you. And Microsoft Teams, so all the files that are stored within the Teams, there's a SharePoint Teams site which sits behind the team, and that's where the files are stored. So sort of out of the box, when you're in here, you see there's this Files tab, and so these files, once it loads up, just have a little bit of patience here, you can see that it says open in SharePoint. So if I click on that, that's going to take me to the SharePoint site that sits behind. And so in this case, because it's a public channel, so everyone can see it, basically it's a folder called Virtual Water Cooler in the Documents Library on the SharePoint team site, which sits behind the Microsoft team. So any files that were added here, so if I went and just quickly went like new Word document, and that's just going to open up and create a Word document, just put test there, and then that's actually going to just save that. And then when I come back here, when I refresh this view, I will see it here. So, and then again, you can do the same thing from from the team itself. You can also just add in Word document. And that will just quickly create a document there too. And then it opens it up with the sort of word inside Teams. So this is like the word inside Teams. You can see it's got like a bunch of functionality here. It doesn't have, so you can put tables and pictures and links and comments and do header footers. So there's a lot of the functionality of like desktop Word. It doesn't quite have all the functionality, but it's pretty, you can do a fair bit. So if you're kind of just need to review a document, especially if you want to talk to someone else about the document, it is a quick way of just bringing it up and having it to look at it. It might not be, if you're really used to desktop Word, you might just find it a little disorienting. And then you can see, because it's refreshed, you can see there's the test document I created here in the team and the document I created from SharePoint directly. And then there's cloud storage. So if you're already using a different file system that's in the cloud, like Google Docs or something like that, then you can add that in here. The meeting notes, which is showing up here because I just had that meeting. So the meeting notes just automatically got added as a tab here, so everyone could come in and see what was added. I should have added more detail to those meeting notes, so it would have looked better, but it had the little new just to let you know there was a new tab. The other things too is you can add different tabs. So if you wanted to, like that Word document, if for whatever reason you really wanted everyone to focus on it, you can actually say, hey, this test document is really important, let's put it here. And then there's an option to post to the channel about what you're doing too. And so what that's going to do is now you have the Word document saved here as a channel, so everyone can just come in and click right into the document really quickly. And then you can see in the post, hey, there's a Word document there. It could be useful if you have an Excel file where you're sort of trying to track things in Excel. There's also Planner, which is a separate Microsoft app. You can add SharePoint pages, streams, so that's like stream videos. You can add in, so like Word, Excel, Power BI. So if you have a Power BI dashboard, then you can also have that here so everyone can come in and look at it. So there's quite a lot of Microsoft options, which is sort of showing up here. And then if you scroll down, you can see there's quite a lot of third-party applications that could be added. A lot of these, the kind of people just keep creating them all the time. And I know what some of them do, but like some of them I'm not even sure. But you can see that like Zoho sprints and stuff like that for tracking agile teams. I know there's like Atlassian add-ins, there's like Zendesk. So you can just see like Adobe signing, stuff like that. So just quite a lot of them. You can really make this the portal for your team. So if it's like a research project or something like that, so it's like a team where you have a new product under development, then you can get all the different people involved in it. So you need some salespeople involved in it, you need some marketing people, you need the actual developers, the team leaders that can all come in here, and you can have like a planner overview of all the tasks. You can have like sort of sprints. You could do like a development team where they're posting their sprint information, they're linking to their code repositories. You could do it as, so there's quite a lot of flexibility around how the teams could work for you and what people should see. You could maybe have a finance team where you have like different dashboards with financial information so that when they come in, they can say, oh, here's our Power BI of our last month's reporting, and they can get all the information they need right at their fingertips. So you can really personalize it. It's fairly easy to manage because it's just clicking and adding, and it's not, I think it's pretty straightforward in terms of how to come in and start using it. It's just more about preventing it from becoming a mess or preventing duplication and having multiple options. So for the most part, like whenever you set up teams, just everyone in your organization who's licensed can come in and say, I want to go create a team. And that's actually what we did when we wanted to start with teams. We just left it really open. People could come in and create a team. There's sort of this build from scratch. And then when you pick that, there's 3 options. So private is only people need permissions to join. Public, anyone in your organization can join. And organization-wide is everyone in the organization automatically joins that team. So you don't need to add them into the team. There is a limit with this organization-wide. If you're a very large organization, I have to double check the number, but I believe it's 3,000. So if you have more than 3,000 licensed users, you can't do the org-wide. I have to double check, I think, because they keep increasing the number, so I might be wrong about the actual number, but there is a limit if you have a very, very large organization. But if you're less than 3,000, then definitely it will work. So those are some sort of different options for creating teams. So I'll actually just pop back in here. When you're using the browser, it can kick you out after a certain time. So I'd logged in, and then I guess it'd been too long. So, but this is, I'm just opening up the Teams administration section. Actually, while that's coming up, I'm just going to show. Oh, okay. I logged out of everything. So I was going to show R1 and just how our usage has skyrocketed because of Teams. We were using Teams before, but when everyone's working from home, you no longer can go over to someone's desk or call them on the phone quite as easily. So our Teams usage has like almost tripled. So it's actually quite impressive.
Why don't I get to a question while we wait?
Okay, sure.
Okay, so we had a lot of good questions coming in. One is about the business premium licenses. I think there was maybe just a little bit of miscommunication there. Someone's asking, can users with business premium licenses not create meetings with Teams? And I think the answer is yes, they can, but I'll let you kind of elaborate on that.
Yeah, so business premium allows you to create meetings within Teams. Even the free version of Teams will allow you to create meetings, but it's not going to be synchronized to your Outlook the same way. When I was showing in Outlook how like I could create a Teams meeting, so the calendar syncs very nicely. So Business Premium will allow you to do that. Business Essentials will if you have as long as you have Exchange set up. But the only thing is the Teams version, you can still create a meeting, but then you'd have to like download the what's it called? The iCal, the iCal, and then you can get the iCal into your calendar that way. So it's just not going to be seamless synchronization with the free version, but with premium, all the features I showed you today, you can actually do. So here we are in the administration panel. Basically, when you go into Teams, when you click on Manage Teams, you can see all the different teams. You can kind of see whether this one's public, these are private, this one's private, that's public. And you can kind of change names and change memberships, change owners of the different teams in here. There's like team policies, which are sort of things that are, you can see how it actually works is there's different policies. You can apply multiple policies. Right now, there's only sort of a organizational wide one. And this is just about discovering private teams and creating private channels in this particular section. And the Discover Private Teams I mentioned is something you might want to turn. It's something that, because if the private team is very, very private, like it's something super secret and you only want the people involved in it, you might want to turn this feature off because you don't want people who aren't part of that team to be even aware of its existence. So that's a feature you can turn off. If, on the other hand, you're more open and you're not having information that needs to be kept super secret from sort of everyone you want, then that's something you can leave on. So these are just, and you can also apply separate policies because you can create multiple policies and apply policies to different teams. And so then, like, if you add in the telephony, you can manage phones here. There's like organizational wide settings, so external access, as I mentioned, which is when you're communicating with Skype for Business or communicating with Skype, so allowing people access outside of it. You can again filter it by domains so that you can say, we only want to talk to these 3 domains. We don't want to talk to other ones because these are the only people we work with outside of our organization. Guest access is allowing guest members in teams, and then you can sort of specify what you are allowing your guest members to do. And then you have like different, so there's a bunch of all different sort of team settings, and then there's like meeting messaging policies and stuff. So this is just like notifications and tagging and how you want email integrations to work. What sort of external file storages you want to allow, or if you don't want to allow it at all, you might just want to turn it off. In terms of messaging policies, again, you can apply multiple policies. You can have different policies. And again, it's things like, okay, well, do you want to have stickers and memes or Giphies? And you can put content ratings so that because what Giphies could come up could be a little not PC, so you might want to say whether it's moderate or strict, so what Giphies people can share. sort of read receipts and sort of whether people can delete their messages or send them. The delete actually has a time limit on it, so you can't, if you send a message, you can't come back and delete it 6 months later. You kind of have to delete it right away. So you can see there's quite a number of options here. And then there's, again, meeting policies as well. So you have policies around what meetings you have. And then there are retention options as well. So you can kind of say, if you do want to, like, messages to expire, if you don't want everything kept forever. But I think the default is it does keep it. That's been my experience. So some things to consider about setting it up. If you're new to Office 365 and Teams, like the Active Directory sync, that's where your users are located. So if you already have an AD, there's an Azure AD synchronization tool that will synchronize them to Office 365, so users can log in with the same usernames, same passwords. You can also have what's called an Active Directory Federation service. So you make your AD into a federation service that provides a token, a login token, and then that can be used with Office 365. So then it's very seamless. There's more infrastructure on your end if you're using ADFS. Azure AD Sync there's a little bit less. Vanity name, like I mentioned, so like add CRGroup.com. Having Exchange set up, SharePoint, because remember, SharePoint, there's a SharePoint team site set up for every team you create. So you don't want to, if you have an accounting team, you don't necessarily want to have a separate accounting SharePoint site somewhere else, because then there's going to be 2 SharePoint locations. So those are some things to consider. If you just want to use Teams, you can download the free version. You can just get started. You can say, we're not worried about all the rest of the Office 365 stuff. We just want to use the chatting. We'll have to integrate the meetings ourselves, but that's okay. We can still do the meetings. We can still chat. We can share files. So you still have access to what you need to get going with remote work. And we don't want to worry about the whole Office 365 because there's just so many pieces of that puzzle. If you're already using Office 365, you might have like SharePoint sites already. So if you have them, if the SharePoint sites were created using the modern Teams site, they can just be converted into Teams quite easily. So that's something you might want to look at. There's quite a number of options you want to think about that. Like we mentioned, there's some rules around Teams creation, who can create it, external usage, guest users. So again, like usage policy guidelines about what people should be posting and how they want to be posting. And then the most important part, of course, is training users and making sure that your users know how to use this. And we've got a training link there, and we'll have other resources at the end. And so some other things to consider is just that external access guest members are not enabled by default, but most of the other settings are pretty open. Like all the settings I was showing you with, like, hey, let Giphy's on, Giphy setting is moderate. That's just out of the box. I haven't gone in and modified those settings. So if you are starting to use Teams, you might want to say, okay, let's restrict who can create the teams, what type of teams are being created, like public, private, organization-wide, whether you want to turn off private discovery, the public-private channels, again, external access, guest meetings, guest members, and then like the messaging meeting policies. As I said, like earlier, when we first started using it, we just left everything open and was like, okay, everyone, here, did Teams training. This is how you use Teams. This is how it works. And then after sort of 6 months, we did a review and said, okay, these are sort of the policies we want everyone to follow now, and this is how we're going to put it in place. And you can have more than one policy. So if you have a team that's for more social, then you can say, hey, we're going to allow Giphies over here. And then on this team over here, for whatever reason, let's prohibit Giphies because it's distracting. We don't need that. We want people to focus on the issues at hand. Or maybe it's for, like, you created a team to handle a legal case and you're like, this might potentially be audited and used in court later on, so let's not have Giphies and stuff that will show up. There's sort of quite a lot of things to think about. It's pretty easy just to start using it because I think it's pretty straightforward to use. It's just some of the administration section. And again, some of your policy can be dependent. If you have lots and lots of, if you're a very, very large company and you've got lots of users all around the world, and if everyone's working remotely right now, maybe you do want to put more restrictions on things, on like creating teams, just to make sure that it's sort of funneled to a central point so that you don't have 7 people creating the same team, really, so you're avoiding duplications. And so the Smart Start workshop for Teams, So it's a framework designed to help organizations understand how Microsoft Teams can be successfully configured so that your business needs sees increased collaboration and improved productivity. We have a package available to help clients plan for Teams property in an expedited time frame. We will work with you to review your current state of needs, technical considerations, and training needs, and then put a plan in place to help you with a successful launch of Teams. Without a plan in place, the adoption of a new technology can be a challenge. During this workshop, CRGroup will help your business understand the full range of capabilities that Teams offers and how it fits with your business needs. From there, we develop a phased plan for rollout that ensures users gain value from the platform early and often. The rollout plan is developed to ensure that user adoption is both sustainable and scalable. If you'd like to know more about this workshop or learn more about the integration and Teams enablement options, contact us after this webinar. Here's some resources. These will be sent out. The registration and trials, there's a bunch of Teams video training, administration guides and templates. We have a blog, how to stay on top of what's new. There's 11 tips for a successful launch of things you might need to think about as you're trying to launch Teams. Any other questions?
Okay, great. Thanks, Elizabeth. And for everybody still on the call, I know we're over time a little bit. There's a lot to go through today, and I know you're very interested in it. So we are recording this. It will be sent out. But Elizabeth, I think that was a phenomenal recap of everything you can do in Teams. We've been responding to questions as they come in as best possible. So I urge everybody to go to the Q&A panel and see the ones that have been published. There haven't been other ones that I haven't asked you already. Just let me confirm here. No, so I think we've addressed them all. So I think with that, I just want to thank you all for joining. I want to remind you that if you aren't already using Teams, just start using it. Enable your workforce with it. It's very intuitive. It's very powerful. There's a free version for you today. If you are looking to get set up, and if your company would like a little help with it, then that's what we have the Smart Start workshop for. You can contact us directly. There's also loads of resources from Microsoft online to help you. So we just urge you to enable this connectedness during this time. It's more important now than ever, and businesses still must go on. So having this type of lightning fast collaboration is really going to make a difference here. You can contact us. I put my email address in the Q&A panel for anybody who wants to reach out, but you can also email us at crg@crgroup.com. And again, you will have this recording available. Now we are hosting the exact same session again on Thursday for people who couldn't make it today. So if you have any coworkers, if you have colleagues who you think this would be valuable for, please send them along that link so that they can register and join as well. Or if you just want to join again, you have more questions, you want to see some more, please feel free to join. And I think that's all. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Thank you everybody for joining. And we hope you again stay safe and healthy, and we hope you have a good week. Bye everyone.